Well, first of all, we talk about WFPB. What does that stand for? Yeah, whole food plant-based. That's the lingo that I'm going with and that I'll be promoting, and it's been promoted. I guess I was influenced by Chief Colin Campbell on this one. Whole foods plant-based. And here's an example of whole foods plant-based. You got your fruits of all kinds, you got your greens and your veggies, you got your nuts, and you got your whatever they are, grains. Yeah, thank you. Seeds and grains, yes, absolutely. And then you end up like this, okay? So that is high octane fuel. And when you have a Ferrari, you feel like $1 million. And this Ferrari is actually 1.2 million. I looked it up. It's $1.2 million. And if you have such a high precision machine, then you're going to make sure that you put the proper gasoline in there. Well, guess what your bodies are? Like a high precision machine, literally 100, maybe 1,000, maybe 1,000,000 times more complex than a Ferrari. And so the creator or the manufacturer of our bodies knows best what our bodies run on. And it's the stuff that I just showed you, whole foods, plant-based. Well, I just got this email this very day, so I thought I'd put it in. I happen to subscribe to about 50 different organizations that have to do with science and health and things like that. And so the Food Revolution Summit happens to be going on right now somewhere online. I don't know if some of you are familiar with that. Ocean Robbins is part of that. Ocean Robbins is the son of Mr. Robbins. And Mr. Robbins' father was part of the Baskin and Robbins ice cream company. And so he kind of rebelled against his dad and said, I don't want to eat ice cream anymore and get fat and everything else. And so it was a wonderful story. So anyway, so I'm getting emails from them. And so this is what I got today. In today's episode, Dr. Michael Greger explained how after only 2 weeks, how many? 2 weeks of healthy eating, whole foods, plant-based, cancer patients can significantly, not a little bit, but significantly boost their blood's ability to defend against cancer. If I were a pharmaceutical industry person, I would want to make sure that nobody knew that. If I were involved in the profit industry of needing people to be sick to make money, then I would not want to let anybody know that this is possible. Here you go. So I'm going to ask a question, and it's going to come in 3 parts. How can I, number 1, achieve more strength? Number 2, achieve more endurance. Number 3, develop a strong intellect. So it's interesting that what works for diabetics to reduce or eliminate their diabetes also works to prevent cancer. It also works to reduce heart disease. It also works to help with kidney disease. It also works, in other words, the one complicated high-octane fuel for our system takes care of our system in its whole, not just one little drug going to one little part. It's the whole. And the Creator knew the whole body needed whole food. And so, and therefore, we can achieve all 3 of these by the same kind of food plan, high octane fuel, like you put in a Ferrari. More strength, more endurance, and develop a strong intellect. Here's the answer. Grains, fruits, nuts, vegetables constitute the diet chosen for us by our manufacturer. All right? Our manufacturer, our Creator. These foods, prepared in a simple and natural manner as possible, are the most healthful and nourishing. I was running a full power program in Nanaimo. We rented out a room in the sports center there, and the ladies were helping with the cooking, and we had a whole weekend and we had meals. And they had a lot of wonderful ideas for desserts that were healthy. And it looked to me like a lot of work and a lot of complication and everything else. So I said, prepared in as simple as a manner as possible. I said, why don't you just get mandarin oranges? They said, what a relief. That's what it does. It's just, what a relief. Just eat mandarin oranges, and everybody loved them. They were really good. They were in season. It was just wonderful. So foods prepared in a simple and natural manner as possible are the most healthful and nourishing. So we may not need to do a whole lot of cooking all the time. Sometimes yes, but not all the time is needed. They impart, now here's the answer to those three questions. They, what I just read, impart a strength, a power of endurance, and a vigor of intellect. Intellect, right? Your intelligence, right, is affected by the fuel we put in our brains. We can have more intellect. And it says it's not afforded, that are not afforded by a more complex and stimulating diet. That came from a book called Ministry of Healing, 295 and 296. I thought that was just stupendous. A couple of weeks ago, I just read a report on the immune system, and it said blueberries especially are really great for boosting the immune system. So I just thought I'd give that report to you. But we know very well that all fruits, nuts, grains, and vegetables support the immune system. But the latest one was the blueberries, so get your berries. They have fiber content. I'm going to go through quickly, not read all the details. Anti-inflammatory properties to maintain a healthy weight, not the blueberries, but whole foods, plant-based. Antioxidants, I'll read this one. Fruits and vegetables are high in antioxidants, which help protect cells from damage caused by harmful molecules known as free radicals. This protection can support overall health, including immune function. So what you now have is everything that we need is found in what God provides. And so we don't kind of need to go to the manufacturers of food for us to get what we need, because we have a high precision machine, an organic living machine. And they give healthy protein. And so the question always comes, where do you get your protein from? If you're going to eat vegetarian, where are you going to get your proteins from? You need your milk, you need your meat, that's what they say. And so my question to you is, where did the elephants get their protein from? They are the strongest land animal in the world. Where do they get those muscles? Okay? Not from meat, I assure you. They're getting it from plants. Well, what about the great ape? Where does it get its protein from? From plants. What about the charging buffalo or the galloping stallion? Where do they get their protein from? Just ask them, and they'll tell you it's not from meat, it's from plants. And so we can get our protein the very same way. It's protein in its purest form. Where does this guy get his protein from? He's a vegan. And right now, I was there in another picture, he's lifting 1,200 pounds. 1,200 pounds in this documentary called The Game Changers. Ever heard of it? Raise your hand if you heard of The Game Changers. Yeah, a few of you have. I've seen it as well. And so he's lifting 1,200 pounds. He's got some muscle. Some people say he's the strongest man in the world. I don't know, but he's pretty strong. And it's all from plants. It's all from plants. Like, we don't need the meat. The meat comes with its own toxins and baggage of all kinds. And so it's called The Game Changer. And so I thought I would go on a whole foods, plant-based diet. And when I did, look what I ended up like. Yeah, see? Not bad, eh? Yeah? I'm not going to take off my jacket to prove it to you. Okay. Well, that happens to be this guy. Arnold, sorry to disappoint. So he's on the Game Changers, and look what he says. He's talking about a vegetarian diet. He's 69 years old here. I think he's about, 74 now or something. And he says his cholesterol is the lowest in my entire life, he said, at the age of 69 when he went on a vegetarian diet back in that time. And then he says, you've got to understand about meat and manliness. So you've got to understand that's marketing. That's just marketing. People who run the meat industry, they know how to market. And they make meat into something that gives you strength, and all the commercials, etc., and all the packaging, etc. He said it's not based on reality. This is Arnold Schwarzenegger talking. Well, it's kind of interesting that he says that. So that's the end of P. I'm not going to go anymore on P, meaning prioritize high-octane fuel. Now we're going to the O of power. O means omit what is harmful. There's so much here on this subject. I couldn't write the book for 5 years because of this very thing. As an Adventist and as an Adventist pastor, I had done many health programs over the years for the last, 30 years or so as church outreach wherever I was. And I remember visiting one guy in Glovertown, Newfoundland. He taught me guitar. And after a guitar jamming session, he and I sat at his kitchen table. And he pulls out a cigarette, and I knew he smoked. And he knew I knew and everything else. Here's what he said. I've never loved or hated something so much in my life as this cigarette. That right there is a universal principle that's going on in the lives of millions, perhaps billions of people. It may not be for cigarettes, but it may be for other things as well. I said I couldn't write the book for 5 years. Reason why is because even though I had the knowledge, I wasn't living the knowledge. And I had to examine why not. I knew I shouldn't eat sugar, salt, and fat, but I loved it so much I ate it. So I cut down on it, ate less than other guys, but still, what is it about myself that caused me to not do what I knew to be healthy and right? I had to work through that in my own life. It took me 2 years. And then after I figured it out, then I thought, okay, I can now write the book, but I got to write about this. Because we know that temperance is a good thing to have. We know this. This is not arguable. The arguable part is how do we put it into action? And so it's kind of like the elephant in the room sometimes. We talk about, yeah, got to eat this and don't eat that. And meanwhile, we go home and get potato chips and we're just filling ourselves up with tasty toxins. And so I had to figure that out. I knew that what I was eating was hurting me. So I had the knowledge, I had the rationality, but yet I still ate it. To eat something you know is going to hurt you is not rational. There's something else going on. And that's what I had to get to the bottom of that. It struck me one time when after a Saturday night of indulgence of all kinds of junk food, ice cream, potato chips, chocolate bars, whatever else, popcorn, sugar, salt, and fat, pretty well, and white flour. I got sick. I had a sore stomach the next morning. And I was so sore, I said, never again, never again, never again. I mean, that was the stupidest thing I ever did. I should know better. I do know better. Next month, same thing. Like, what's going on? And this time, when I said it again, never again, never again, it reminded me of a childhood experience of my grandfather. My grandfather was an alcoholic. And I used to love to visit Grandma. Granddad happened to be there, couldn't help that. But Grandma, I went to see Grandma with the family, and we'd go from New Brunswick to Nova Scotia where they lived in. And so I was sleeping in my guest room of my grandmother's house, and other family members were around the house sleeping around. And I heard this awful, awful noise, and it was my granddad swearing a blue streak. Sexual words he was saying, and he was arguing with my grandmother. It was just an awful thing, and I had never heard these words before. I was 10 years old. And I just kind of hid myself under the blanket, trying not to hear these awful words coming from this human being who was my grandfather. And it was, to this very day, I'm kind of picturing it right now. And the next morning, when I got up, my mother or my father, or both, came to get me and took me downstairs to the basement suite. And the family, 6 of us, 4 kids, I'm the oldest of 4, we met downstairs and we ate breakfast, which was really, really eerie and odd because we always ate breakfast up on the main floor. And now we're downstairs in this basement suite eating. And it was awful. And I said, Mom, I want to go upstairs and be with Grandma and have like a normal breakfast. No, don't go upstairs. And so I wasn't allowed to go upstairs. And then I waited until my parents were distracted. And then I went upstairs. When I got upstairs, everything was eerily quiet and silent. My grandmother was nowhere to be found. And I walked across the kitchen floor and into the living room where I saw what looked like a dead body on the floor. It was half nude. It was my granddad, big bloated belly, had drool and vomit and spit all over the place. I don't want to get into too many detail. I'll probably tell you too much already. But it was really, really gross and very opposite of dignified. He had an empty rum bottle, he used to drink rum, on the floor next to his hand. And he was flat out on his back, but his neck was crooked up against the couch. So it looked like he couldn't even breathe that way. And I thought maybe he's dead, he couldn't breathe. And I said as a 10-year-old boy, I said to myself, I'm not supposed to be here. So I slowly backed up and went downstairs and never told anybody about that. 3 days later, we leave, and then we go to my other grandmother's place. And 3 days later, we come back. And we're all gathered around my grandfather, who hasn't shaved in 3 or 4 days. And he's sitting up on his lazy boy chair. He's much happier but humbler. And in the middle of our conversation, he looks into my eyes and he says, never again, never again. And I absolutely believed him. But 1 month later, he did it again and again and again. And he was an alcoholic. That's what alcoholics do. And I thought, that's what I said. I mean, I never thought to say those words because he said, I just said it and then it triggered this. And I thought, am I like my grandfather? But with junk food and not with alcohol? And I looked up in the DSM-5, which is a Diagnostic and Statistical Manual for Psychological Diseases, and looked up, is there such thing as food addiction? And that was published, I think, in 2012. There's a whole lot more research done since then, which basically says, yes, food addiction is a thing. You go to a number of other websites and research and books. Susan Pierce Thompson wrote a book called Bright Line Eating about that. And so it took me 2 years to think, I am an addict. Reason why? It's because the same pathways in my brain, the dopamine pathways in my brain, are exactly the same pathways that my grandfather had when he was an alcoholic. You have that desire, that hankering for the bottle or for the sugar. It's the same kind of behavior in the brain. And it's interesting, you cannot get addicted to natural food, like broccoli. There's no such thing as broccoli anonymous or something. Broccoli eaters anonymous. I mean, there's no such thing as that. But anything that you can get addicted on has been extracted from nature and manufactured into something different than what nature made it to be. Sugar is one of those things. All right? If you want to have sugar, eat an apple. But don't extract it from its natural source, the high-octane fuel source, and then put it on your cereal, because you're going to kill the microbiome in your body, and that's going to knock down your immune system, and you're more susceptible to disease. It's not just sugar, it's fat, oil, and grease. It's also too much salt, and a little bit of salt, but not too much. And also white flour. White flour, pardon? Caffeine, another one. See, these are extracted. So I was talking to somebody, happened to be my writing coach, and she said, what about olive oil? I said, if you want olive oil, eat an olive. But olive oil is healthy. No, it's not healthy. It's just less harmful than all the other stuff. But it's extracted. You can't go to a tree and extract olive oil. You can get an olive, so eat an olive. And so I know that sounds restrictive, but that's the kind of the principle of whole foods, plant-based. Now, if you really want to make a difference in your body, in your physiology, that you would actually boost your immune system and increase the healthiness of it all, then why not go radical and do what God says? Whole foods, plant-based. Give it a go. Experiment. Now, I know very well you're going to see research out there that says olive oil is great for you, especially if it's extra virgin, cold pressed, all that kind of stuff. And it is better. It is better. But we have to be careful that what is better is not good. It's simply less harmful. So anyway, give that a go. Try it. Experiment for yourself. And you just see. Try it for a month. Suffer for a month. Suffer for a month just to see on the other end of it how you're going to feel. I can almost guarantee how you're going to feel. It's going to be a whole lot, it's going to be like the Ferrari, more than the jalopy. So that is quite a problem that we have here with sugar, salt, and fat, and everything else. And that's the problem that I had. And so I now had to think of myself, if I wanted to get healthy and fit, I need to have a paradigm shift in who I am. And that paradigm shift is, I am a person who has been wounded in such a way, and I don't want to get it too much into physiology, but how can I put it? I had, and many do, millions do, have a dearth of dopamine receptors. Dopamine, we call it the pleasure drug, but it's not just that. It's the anticipation drug. It's the motivation drug. It's the hope drug. It's the hormone in your body that says, I want to. I'm going to get this. I'm going to get this. That's what drives people. And when that's on overdrive, then you end up being an addict. I'm oversimplifying. And so I had to recognize that I was probably like that. So in order for me to, not you maybe, but for me, I had to go radical and not cut down, but cut out. Because if I were like an alcoholic, then I'm not going to cut down on the rum. I'm going to cut it out altogether. And that's what I did with the help of my wife. And that helped me about 2 years ago. I did this, somewhere around the time I retired or so. And so there's more to it. I won't get into it too much, but we have the laws of health, and then we have the violation of the laws of health. I'm going to read a quote. Disease is the effort of nature to free the system. The system is your high precision machine from conditions that result from the violation of the laws of health. That's why we get sick. The laws of health are there, but we're not doing them. And so don't feel guilty. I'm not trying to guilt you into anything. I don't blame anybody. It's just the way it is. It's just the laws of cause and effect. But if we can know those laws and then leverage them, then we can find ourselves to be like that Ferrari. I thought it was so cool. So omit what is harmful: alcohol, smoking, processed sugar, processed foods, including sugar. If Brussels sprouts tasted like cream puffs, I would have Brussels sprouts every day. But for some reason, it's just not working out for me. All right? It's just not working out that way. There's something about sugary foods that just gets me. Stress, salty foods too. Okay, other stuff as well. Don't get me on that stuff. All right, chronic stress, of course, is also something that contributes to immune breakdown, and so if we omit what is harmful, then that'll help increase our immunity. Excessive antibiotic use. If you go to TED Talks on YouTube, you find there's a lady there, I forget her name, just put in antibiotics, TED Talks antibiotics. And she says the antibiotics that are being used today aren't working nearly as well as they used to work. And the day is going to come when they won't work at all. And we depend on them, So if we can at all find ways to not use antibiotics, overuse or misuse of antibiotics can disrupt the balance of beneficial bacteria in the gut, which plays a role in the immune health. Does that look familiar? That's what I feel like sometimes. All right? Oh, that looks so good, but it's a trap. Don't do it. Resist. How do I get the strength to resist? Strength to resist temptation does not come through focusing on resisting. And this sometimes needs to be a paradigm shift in so many of us. We have to resist. No, I don't want that, don't want that, don't want that. And we're so focused on that we don't want that, we end up eating that. And what's the answer? The answer is to focus on something else. It does not come through focusing on resisting. As a matter of fact, let me tell you what it does come from. If you want, I can give you a compilation of Ellen White quotes on how to overcome temptation. I think it's just one page. This is a quote from her. Overcoming temptation is a byproduct of focusing on something greater. Focusing on the positive helps us to not even be aware of the negative trying to get through to us. What is your positive? That has to do with your purpose. It has to do with your superpower. And how you're going to use your superpower to advance the purpose that God created you for. When you do that, those arrows of temptation will just bounce off. That's the answer. And I thought, when I read that some years ago, I thought, that's what I need. That's just what I need. What do I focus on? And so I searched and searched and searched, and I finally found it. So focus your talents on serving others. Find joy in that. If you don't find joy in that, it's probably not your talent you're using. Resisting temptation is a byproduct. It's a byproduct, not the product, but the byproduct of the good habits, there. So there you go. Water up. Water relieves fatigue, changes your mood to be a better mood. Headaches, arthritis, digestion, constipation, weight loss, removes toxins, healthy skin productivity, and improves cell function. We have about 37 trillion cells in our body. I didn't count, but I think that some of you might have a little bit more, some a little less. But there's a lot of cells. And water goes in every single one of those. And in every cell, there's something called a mitochondria, and that's like the furnace that burns the calories. And if we don't have enough water getting into that furnace that burns the calories, then it's like things start to break down and get really sludgy, like going through the blood vessels, et cetera, et cetera. And then our cells just don't get what they need. Because the cells are on the, I kind of envision it this way. Imagine a school with a hallway, and you have classrooms on the other side of the hallway. And those classrooms are like the cells of your body, and the hallway is like a blood vessel. So you're going down the hallway, and you want to drop fuel off into the classrooms, as it were. And it's interesting that fuel happens to be glucose in our bodies. Our bodies, especially our brains, need glucose to run. And can you imagine if you're walking through a school and you see piles and piles of materials that are supposed to go into the classroom, but the classroom door is closed, is locked shut, and you can't get anything in. And that's kind of what it's like when you have type 2 diabetes, is that the glucose is in the blood when it should be in the cells. And so here's what we end up saying. Oh, we've got to get our sugar down. But that's not the answer. Why is it not in the cells? It's not in the cells because the key to unlock the door to get into the classroom is all plugged up with fat. Reduce the fat, you open up the door, and the sugar goes right into where it's supposed to go. The sugar meaning the glucose, which is a broken down form of all the food that we eat, called metabolism. And so that's kind of what we need to be thinking of is sugar, salt, fat, white flour, caffeine, all these things. Get rid of them. But I know they taste so good. And that's what we got to work on. How do we work on that? Focus on the positive. Get distracted by doing something else. The mucous membrane health as well. Let's get through. Detoxification, the lymphatic system function is helped by water. So much. Temperature regulation, we know about that. Here's something comes from a study from 2020 from Johns Hopkins University. That's where a famous Carson, what's his name? Carson, Ben Carson, that's where he taught. The more hydrated you are, the more efficiently your body works at tasks that range from thinking, just thinking. So if you want to think better, drink more water. Imagine, you want to think better, drink more water. And then to burning body fat and everything else. So that's quite amazing, I thought. How much should we drink? Well, we should drink at least as much as we lost, and we lose it in perspiration, lungs, feces, and waste removal as urine adds up to around 10.6 cups. Got to replace all that. It's coming from Nietzsche Pines right here about water. So we replace it with water produced by oxidation of carbohydrates and fats. That's only a cup and a half. Water contained in the food we eat, that's 3.5 cups. Then we need to drink water to balance the water loss. In this particular scenario, it's 5.5 cups. And altogether, that adds up to what you lost. But we know very well that we're all different sizes. The temperature could go up, we need more water, we maybe need more exercise. So what should we do? Well, first of all, recognize that the eight glasses of water a day only works for the average person. So are you average? How many here is average? Raise your hands. No, I didn't think so. So 8 glasses don't work for you. If you take a look right here, let me see. There, yeah. If you're 160 pounds, then that's where you'd say, yeah, I'm the one who needs 8 glasses of water on a sedentary day. It's not extra busy. I'm not running a marathon, nothing like that, just that. So if you weigh less than 160 pounds, you need less water. More, you need more water. And so just don't go by what the average is. Go by what your body weight is and your activity level and the temperature, etc. So that should help a little bit. Exercise outdoors. Here, we were never designed for the sedentary, indoor, socially isolated, fast food-laden, sleep-deprived, frenzied pace of modern life. We were never designed for that. We're never designed for that. Exercise is medicine. It changes the brain and the body in beneficial ways that are more powerful than any pill you could take. Now, this is from Dr. Stephen Lardy, and he did a TEDx talk. You can look him up and you can hear what he actually says. He gets passionate about it. He said, listen, don't depend on pills. You can get a lot of this stuff by just drinking more water, doing more exercise, and you get all you need there that way. There are 4 main essentials when it comes to exercise and being fit. Here they are. Cardio, strength training, stretching, and posture. So cardio is when you're going to be breathing hard. You're walking, or running, or jogging, okay, cardio. Strength training is when you're going to be grunting. Strength training. Need that. Stretching, which you're going to go, you got to stretch. And good posture, I don't know what you're going to say if you have a good posture. You need all 4 of those. Those are the 4 things for having, like, the exercise part. I won't get into that, but just remember all that. Now, usually if I'm in a seminar, I get people standing up and we'll do some stretching exercises, but I won't do that right now. So exercise does all these things. It reduces depression even, anxiety and stress. It reduces the risk of heart disease, stroke, and breast cancer, and back pain even. It improves your brain, mood, energy, quality of sleep, bone strength, self-esteem, immunity. Remember, we're talking about boosting your immune system. And then blood pressure and aging. So exercise does all those wonderful things, plus give you vitamin D production, which is good for your immune system as well. I just had some of that yesterday. Reduce stress. Exercise reduces stress. And of course, stress reduction helps our immune system to be very strong. Physical fitness, we need that. It supports everything else. It enhances our mood. We need fresh air when we get outside, improve lung function, etc. I'll read this and I'll share a bit. Improves your sleep. Exercise improves your sleep. Regular outdoor exercise can help regulate sleep patterns and improve the quality of sleep. Adequate sleep is essential for a well-functioning immune system. As a matter of fact, the next few slides I will talk about, and that'll be the end because we get your R, the rest, right? Which is really apropos because we're about to go have our rest. Rest is perhaps restorative rest is perhaps one of the strongest boosters of your immune system ever known to man. Restorative rest. And exercise, or anything else that helps you get rest, but exercise in this case, will help you boost your immune system. And there's so much more. I know that I'm oversimplifying it all. Being in nature settings exposes individuals to various microorganisms and substances found in the environment, which can help train and strengthen the immune system over time. So just getting out in nature. I remember one time I was so worried, I was bogged down with, I didn't know how I was going to get out of a dreadful situation. And I went into the forest. I came out 3 hours later. I had no idea why I went in with the worries that I had. I had no more worries. I don't know what it was that made me worry so much. I came out and said, I can handle this. Why am I worried? It was the encouragement, it was the environment of nature that just helped that. So being outdoors, here's the best conditions that you can live in. It's probably not possible for most of us. Live outdoors day and night on a mountainside, because you get exercise going up and down the mountain, next to a stream that has water going by over rocks 6 miles an hour or more to keep the bacteria away, with a garden and friends and a sense of purpose. That'll be the best. You'll be the best, healthiest person ever if you can do that. I can't do that, but I can try to get up a little bit more. So anyway, get outside, rest up. It's amazing. I read the book by Matthew Walker. Have you heard of Matthew Walker? Raise your hands. Nobody. I recommend Matthew Walker. Dr. Matthew Walker wrote a book called Why We Sleep. Amazing. I first heard of him on a TED Talk on YouTube. Dr. Matthew Walker. Look him up. Matthew Walker, TED Talk, sleep, and see what you find. And he gives you the idea that nighttime, sleep is your nighttime repair shop. When you go to bed tonight, you're going to go through maybe 4 cycles of ups and downs, right, of REM sleep and non-REM sleep, et cetera, et cetera. There's like a million things going on in your brain, going on when you're sleeping. It's more than a million. And it's just amazing what's going on in your brain. It's developing neural connections, and it helps you to learn new skills. As a matter of fact, the stuff that you learned today, if you never got any sleep tonight, you'd forget most of it by tomorrow. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. What am I thinking? Yeah, I've already forgotten most of it, right? So hopefully you get something. But you know what? Studies have shown that when you sleep after you learn something, you will retain it more. And you retain it to a certain percentage. I mean, I forget the percentage, but you'll retain it more. Even if you sleep in the daytime after you learn something, you retain it more. So tonight, you're going to be sleeping and REM sleep. What does that stand for, REM sleep? Rapid eye movement. And then the non-REM sleep, we call it. And different things happen during that time. So during the non-REM sleep, amazing stuff is happening in our brain, which is to do with fixing up the neurons. It's to do with transferring short-term memories into long-term memories. And they studied this, and they've actually seen, it's like they've seen it in the brain. They see like these little, I'm going to call them trucks, but they're not trucks. But it's little trucks that go from one part of the brain to another part of the brain, and they go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But they only go in actually one direction. And it's transferring the short-term memories that we build up in the hippocampus and other parts of the brain. There's emotional stuff, there's informational stuff, and it goes through our cerebral cortex where it stays there for a really long time. And it does that during sleep. If we didn't sleep, we wouldn't be able to do that. And so sleep helps us to learn, to remember. So our brain is kind of like a sponge. And all day long, we're taking in information through our eyes, through our ears. It's just information, like billions and billions of little bits of information. And it gets stored up in our brains. And the next day, during the night, that sponge needs to be kind of dried out so that it can soak up more information for the next day. But if you don't get a good enough sleep, the sponge doesn't dry out. The brain doesn't really cleanse itself. And so a poor night's sleep, and a poor night's sleep could be anything. I've had poor night's sleeps in the last little while, and so that's kind of why I think I have a cold. I've only had 4 hours sleep the last 2 nights. I don't know why. And maybe it's because I'm worried about, you. Okay, I don't want to blame you. Okay, got other stuff going on. Anyway, the point being that when you really want to learn something, make sure you get a good enough sleep, and that's 7 hours to 9 hours sleep. Most studies say this. Matthew Walker certainly says this. If you get more than 9 hours sleep, there's something else going on wrong in the system, related to depression and things like that. If it's less than 7 hours sleep, there's something that you're going to be missing out on. And it has to do with we'll call it amyloid beta. And we have, like the amyloid beta is toxic, and it builds up throughout the day as we get information coming into our brains through whatever we see and feel and everything else. And if we don't get a good enough sleep, the amyloid beta, or sometimes they call it beta amyloid, stays stuck where it is and doesn't get transferred. And what they found with Alzheimer's patients is they have a lot of beta amyloid or amyloid beta in their brains. I wondered about my grandmother who had Alzheimer's. Did she get a good enough sleep? I don't know. But it made me wonder about that. So there it is, amyloid beta, immune cells weakened, 6 hours. They did an experiment, 6 hours of sleep, 4 times more likely to get the flu virus. If you sleep consistently 6 hours or less. That's what I've done. Poor sleep decreases testosterone. Poor sleep also makes you eat 250 calories more the next day, on average. Why? Because it has to do with the ghrelin and other hormones that cause us to have the hunger and all that kind of stuff. And we have to use more willpower to give up the food that we want to have. And we don't get enough sleep, we don't have enough willpower. And so we gain weight. And so, again, it's the cause and effect stuff. Cause and effect, cause and effect. If you pull all-nighter, you're going to decrease your memory by 40%. Long-term memory, hippocampus to the cortex. That's what I was talking about, those trucks that kind of carry the amyloid beta from the hippocampus to the cortex. And they can actually see this in scans. And I had something happen to me. I remember I was working at camp, and before I was retired, this was about 4 years ago. And man, I worked hard, long hours. 16 hours was just average. And then one particular day I worked 23 hours. And I went to bed at 4 o'clock in the morning and got up at 5 for an early morning program in the main pavilion. So I had very little sleep. And so when I met somebody the next day, usually that person and I get along really well, and we're all animated and friendly, nice to see each other. But I was I didn't look sleepy, I don't think, but I felt really dull. And that ruined my relationship with that person, because she was all friendly and I was all dull. And to this very day, I wish I had never talked to her because I think I ruined the relationship. I'm sure she's okay with it, but the point being, that's what sleep does to you. It takes away your alertness to have a conversation. And that affects relationships. And relationships which sour affects your immune system. So you see again the cause and effect all the way through. And so people who don't get a good night's sleep consistently end up lonelier. They end up lonelier. And loneliness is a disease, which really hurts us a lot. The amygdala, 60% more active when we're sleep deprived. Why is that significant? Because the amygdala is all about, many, many things. But one of the things is the amygdala, in times of stress, wants to act and act right now. And it sometimes bypasses the cerebral cortex, the regulator of your behavior. Well, the amygdala is more active. In other words, impulse you're going to act more on impulse during the day when you didn't have enough sleep the night before. When you act on impulse, you end up giving into things. Maybe you get angry at someone. That's because the amygdala is 60% more active when it doesn't have its proper sleep. And so again, it really matters a whole lot. It affects the fight or flight and also artificial light we've got to be thinking of. So how can you improve your sleep? Make sure that's dark, completely dark, black, dark. When you get some sleep, when you go to bed, it helps with the melatonin that's happening. Melatonin basically starts in the morning and kind of builds up all day long for a 16-hour cycle. When you go to bed, the melatonin kind of tells you it's time to go to bed. It doesn't make you sleepy, but it encourages the other hormones to make you sleepy. Melatonin. Turn off your iPad. If you don't, then you're going to lose 20% quality of your sleep. If you have an iPad on, say, iPhone or computer or TV, anything electronic, within like an hour before you go to bed. Why? Because the blue light affects the melatonin. And so now that's one thing. Temperature should be somewhere between 17 to 19 degrees Celsius. You sleep better that way. Don't stay, if you wake up in bed, don't stay awake, let's say, beyond 20 minutes. Just get up. Don't train your brain to think that lying in bed is okay to be awake when you're in bed. That's training your brain. Don't do that. Caffeine cuts our sleep down by 20%. So much happens with caffeine and alcohol when we're sleeping. We lose that repair shop activity when we just had caffeine earlier in the day. The half-life of caffeine is, I think it's 12 hours, something like that. So basically, you want to have your last cup of coffee 12 hours before you go to bed. However, the quarter life of caffeine is even longer. And so I may have those numbers wrong. So that would mean then that if you're going to have your caffeine, have it, like, say, 16 hours before you go to bed. Which means pretty well when you get up. But you shouldn't have caffeine when you get up either. Oh, just don't even have it. Make it a whole lot better. Alcohol, sedation. Now, the thing is, with alcohol, people say you need alcohol, helps me to sleep. No, it doesn't. Alcohol has a sedate activity, but it doesn't put you to sleep. It sedates you. And when you're sedated, you're not having that repair stuff going on in your brain. When you're sedated. You're not really sleeping, you're sedated. That's what alcohol does. And turn off electronics 60 minutes before lights out. And I think I will just stop right about there. Not do anything else. If you want to get a summary, go to vibrantlife.com. Look up 10 ways to boost your immune system. And get this right here. Vibrantlife.com. Got some good stuff on there. All right, test it out. Test it out. Try your sleep and see how it happens. How many of you are going to be looking at your cell phones before you go to bed? Raise your hands. Yeah, I figured. All right. Okay, you're going to die. Right? All right, don't do that. Okay, I'm going to look at it too. I'm going to die as well. So what I'm saying is, sometimes this is our lifestyle. We just have this lifestyle. But at least you know for the future, if you can kind of arrange it, to turn off electronics. Maybe not now, but make it a habit. Make it a habit sometime down the road, and it'll help you. It'll just help you.
To be aware of new videos like this one, be sure to subscribe to the Preparing for the Time of Trouble channel. For more free videos and downloadable audio podcasts, as well as handouts, go to www.preparingforthetimeoftrouble.com. Topic categories include recordings of live seminar presentations, country living, sustainable gardening, homestead remedies, how to be self-sufficient when the grid goes down, wild edible and medicinal plants, hydrotherapy, and end-time Bible prophecies. To take advantage of these free resources, go to preparingforthetimeoftrouble.com.